Welcome back to the channel. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and today I'm going to show you how to engrave custom bottle opener keychains. Let's get started. So with the bottle opener keychains, you're going to have this bottle opening shape, which makes the keychain lie at an angle. For laser engraving, the best angle for this to sit at is actually going to be flat like this. So in order to make that happen, I'm going to have to create a special jig that will prop up this right-hand side so that when I sit them in the laser, it will keep it level just like this. So I'm going to go to the computer and I'm going to set up a file for a jig that I can do this with, and I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll come back here and show you how it works. When a client brings me a new product to engrave, I typically look at standard sites that I have for different templates based on the product. In this case, these items were bought from JDS by the client, and when he brought them to me, I simply went to the JDS website to look for different templates and then found the product that I needed. In this case, I typed in my part number in the top right, found that file, and just downloaded that. When I open that file, I get this result. This inner rectangle is for the engravable area. The outer rectangle is what they are deeming the overall keychain size. What I do is I go ahead and copy that, and I take it into my own file. And you'll see here that I've already modified the design, but if I paste their design next to it, you'll see that I keep the engraving rectangle the same size, and I make sure I put my artwork within that rectangle. Next, because I need my bottle openers to sit flush and flat with the table to be engraved, I need to actually make the outer rectangle smaller than the inner one. In this case, I'm going to ungroup these elements, and you'll see that even if I ungroup them, I still may need to release the compound path. Once you do that, you should be able to select each one individually. I go ahead and select the outer one, and then I just drag it to the left a little bit, maybe about 3/4 of the way. This will give me enough opening so that the bottle opener portion can sit down inside of the cutout, while the right hand side of the keychain can rest on top of the material for this to lay flat. Once I have that design, just like I have here, I go ahead and send these cutouts over to the laser. So you'll see over here in my layers, I have a border, an engraving border, and the logo. So what I'll do is I'll turn the logo and engraving border off, and then I'll send over the borders to the machine and cut those out of a scrap piece of MDF. Once I have the jig made, I can go ahead and put all of the keychains in it and start engraving. Okay, now you can see the jig that I made. The first 2 rows here are actually trial attempts at getting the spacing right, getting the right size for the bottle opener to fit, and everything else. And then this last row over here is where I have actually figured it out to what works for me. You'll see all these cutouts on the right hand side that have a little bit of space in between them. I found that on the left side here, if I had 2 keychains side by side, and even the width on this one didn't work, but you'll see that if they're side by side, they start to hit each other and they don't really lie flat or fit well. So I made my final row spaced further apart so that when I stick these in, you'll see enough space between them that they don't hit. Their keychains only overlap a little bit, so none of this will affect the engraving on it. And I'm able to line up about 13 or so in this column. So as it engraves, it'll finish this one and then go to the next one and so on and so forth. So you can line up a whole sheet of material where these cutouts are in it, spaced far enough apart, and be able to run a whole bunch of these at once. For this to work, you'll see that I have a piece of material underneath of the jig. So the jig is cut all the way through, and then I have a piece of MDF underneath. So with this, what this does is allows me to put a keychain in here without it going down into the table. And with that, once the keychain hits the material underneath, it'll actually let the bottle opener side go down into this material about 1/4 of an inch. This is a 1/4 of an inch thick MDF. And that 1/4 of an inch is just enough to help this surface lie flat to where it needs to be for engraving. The other key to this is you'll see that there's not a whole lot of wiggle room here. So this will make sure that your keychain is as centered as you can make it. You'll see in my first attempt here that there was just way too much play and it could move just way too much. So this final one here is just right for this keychain. You'll see that I didn't actually cut all the way to the end of the keychain. I just cut far enough to where it cleared the bottle opener part, mainly because I wanted this flat surface for the keychain to rest on. If you cut all the way past the keychain, it'll defeat the purpose of this jig. The whole intent of this jig is you'll have a cutout to sit the opener in, and you'll have a flat part for the key ring side to sit on in order for this to lay flat. If I slide the jig to where there's no longer material underneath of it, and I try to put this keychain in, if I get lucky, it'll hit the metal rib in the vector table. If I'm not lucky, you'll see that in certain spots, like this one, the keychain doesn't lie flat, and in fact, actually sinks into the table, which is not going to work for this method. So you always want to take your jig and stick it on top of another piece of material so that your keychain will lie flat. So in my machine, in this corner, this is my 0 point. So all I have to do if I want to use this jig over and over again, I just slide the material up to that top left corner. I'll take the jig and slide it up to the top left corner as well. And then these will be perfectly positioned every time I need to start a new set. So I can engrave these today, I can engrave them a month from now, a year from now, and as long as I have this jig and I have the file set up the way it was when I did this jig, then I can come in and get repeatable results every single time. Now you will notice I just did 1 row. I didn't go all the way out just because of the number of keychains I was doing. But you can take this pattern and actually take it over to the right multiple times so that you can fit multiple keychains. I will make this template available for this spacing and these cutouts so that you can just download it and cut it yourself. And this will save you a lot of headache. But look in the description below for a link to that file, which will help you get started with this. Now that I have the jig set up and the cutouts are made to accept all of the keychains, I'm going to go ahead and fill it up with a column of keychains and go ahead and machine those to show you what it's like. All right, once you engrave the keychain, there will be a little bit of residue on the engraving. What I do is take some LA's Totally Awesome cleaner, which you can get at Dollar Tree, and I go ahead and clean off the keychain so that it gets rid of all that residue and becomes nice and shiny. You'll see in this case, Tipsy Robot actually wanted 3 different colors. So we have the red, the blue, and the black. Do keep in mind that some of these keychains do vary in width slightly. They also vary in how far this part is bent, what angle it's bent at. And you can actually see in some cases with these keychains, it might be hard to tell, but if you look at the edge of this black part, and then you look at the edge of the actual bottle opener, they are not 100% parallel with each other. So sometimes, depending on how you put them in the jig, you will maybe need to try to twist it just a little bit to be parallel to the bed so that it engraves correctly. And that's how you engrave these bottle opener keychains where you have that height difference. Hopefully you found this video helpful. If you did, I'd appreciate it if you liked the video and subscribe to the channel and turn on the post notifications so that you know when I post new videos.
And be sure to check out my Instagram @MakerExperiment, where I share pictures of this stuff along the way, as well as processes, and answer a lot of different questions. Again, go ahead and leave a comment down below as to what other products you'd like to see how-to videos for, because there are a lot of different things that people engrave and companies sell that can be engraved, that there's not a lot of information out there as how to do it. So if you have any ideas for those, leave them in the comments below and I'll do my best to make a video on them. Thank you again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.